Welcome to Fair Women's Nice Guy. I am your host, MNG, and I am here to tell my story on how I decided to become the sole provider of my son. And I know that over the years, I've had a lot of ups and downs. I had a lot of fears, and I wanted to create this podcast in order to be able to tell my story so I can encourage other men that are out there that are single fathers, that are doing it by themselves, to know that, hey, there are other guys out here doing it by themselves. Even if you don't know those that are in your circle that's out there doing it by themselves. But I'm here to say there are other guys out there doing it by themselves. And I am here as the testimonial to talk about the struggles, the ups and downs, the fears. And this particular episode is dedicated to how it all got started. We're talking like 15 years of raising my son and being the provider and doing everything that I needed to do. Now, I had to go through the court system in order to get custody of my son, and it doesn't work like that for everybody. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's situation is unique. And I've heard a few different stories from a few different guys on how, they took custody of their kids, or, the other party or the woman decided that she didn't want the kids anymore. And, that's completely fine depending on the situation. I'm not judging anyone for the choices that were made. I just know in my situation, I had to be the key figure to be able to step up and make sure that my son had everything that he needed and everything that I didn't have when I was growing up. I didn't have my father when I was growing up, so I had to make sure that I was in my son's life because I knew what it felt like, and I knew how it was to be raised when your father is not there. Some of the things that occur, and you may have father figures that pop in and out of your life, and some of the father figures come from your mom dating someone, and they take a liking to you, and then they break up and then they're gone. Or you may have had a school teacher or a principal or a counselor that was there that was another father figure, and then as you progress through schooling, they were gone. So I've been through a lot of those things and a lot of those struggles. So this podcast is really dedicated to talking about my personal growth as a man, as a father, as a disciplinarian, all of that stuff that I kind of had to go through and I had to learn. I had to kind of teach myself to how to be a parent, because I knew how my parents parented, and it didn't really work for the generation that I was raising. It really didn't work for that generation. I had to try a different approach, but this is kind of what this podcast is about, is kind of talk about some of those things, and even the fears of being a parent, thinking or feeling that you're not good enough, feeling like what you were doing was not going to yield the best results for your child. Everybody would like for their child to be a contributor to society and not a taker. And what I mean by taker is like a thief or a criminal or gangbanger, how the case is. Not saying there's anything wrong with those individuals. Their lives ended up there for whatever course that their life decided to take, whatever path they decided to take, that's where their life ended up. So I'm not judging. I just know that what I wanted, the opportunities that I wanted for my son, I wanted him to be able to afford to have all the opportunities that I had and then some. That's more so where I was geared towards with me being the father. How did I get here? 17 years ago. 21, got a girl pregnant. Right? Oddly enough, I thought I was ready to be a father, but I wasn't. As much as I didn't want to abort another child, because I did get a woman pregnant at the age of 16, but I'm sure we all been there, correct? I didn't want to abort another child, and the woman that I was with, I honestly thought I was in love with. I even proposed to her. Gave her a ring and everything. It was kind of spectacular. I did it inside of a Walmart. I know, it was so corny and cliche. Like, I really thought I was doing something back then. If I had like really good internet, or if I had an internet and it wasn't dial up like we have today, I guess I could have seen better proposals and had a better idea and kind of had put something great together, right? But I didn't, right? So we had lived together. We had our ups and downs so far as financially and our living situation, and eventually we split up. We went our separate ways. And in the midst of our going our separate ways, and I'll be honest, I wasn't right. 21, I wasn't right. I was a dog. I didn't do anything physically, like cheat on or anything like that, but the opportunities were rolling in. Let me tell you, them opportunities was rolling. I didn't jump on any of them, but I flirted with the idea, and that kind of would set me up at that point. Like, I was like, all right, well, I don't want this no more, because it's, better fish out in the sea that want me, so I'm gonna chase that, right? So the first 2 years of my son's life, I was called every name in the book. I was, you ain't shit, you ain't a good father, you a deadbeat father, you a weekend father, you don't know what it's like to be a full-time parent. I was all of that. Like, I don't think there was not one name that I was not called when it came to being a deadbeat father. Not one. And if I could have wrote a book, I probably would have had 101 names you can call a deadbeat father. 101. So for the first 2 years of life, I was the weekend parent. Went to pick him up on the weekends. Sometimes I called off. No, I tried to treat it like a job. I called off. I was that one. And it mainly wasn't because I didn't want to be with my son. I mainly just didn't really want to deal with her. And that's kind of the first struggle right there, is dealing with the other parent, because you hurt their feelings. You broke their heart. Regardless of how it happened, they wanted to be loved. They wanted to be cared for. They wanted to be taken care of. Whether it was a one-night stand or how the case is like that, at any point in time that you reject the other party, the woman, you're going to receive some kind of backlash. No matter what kind of backlash it is, you're going to get it. And it's difficult. It's difficult to deal with, because in your mind, in my mind, I'm not going to say what's in your mind. In my mind, I really just wanted to be a father to my son at the lowest possible energy cost and mental anguish that I can get through. But it's never that easy. It's like you're walking into a minefield and you're tiptoeing across a minefield, trying not to set anything off, trying not to cause any disruption. And then you step on a mine and you cause a lot of disruption. Unfortunately, the downside of that part, right? Now, as I said, the first 2 years, I wasn't shit, right? So right around the time he was like a little bit after he had turned 3, I had received a phone call. And I was at my apartment chilling and everything. I wasn't doing nothing major or nothing. I think I was like watching some anime or something like that. I was doing something. I received a phone call saying, hey, I need you to take your son from my son's mother. And I said, why? She was like, I just need you to take him. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm going to have to take him. So I took him. And he stayed with me for about 6 months. Now, during this time, I did see his mother on and off, and she came and visited him, but I didn't know what was really going on. During this time, I knew that she was talking about moving out of state to go to Nevada or whatnot. And I was like, well, why are you going to Nevada? Who do you know in Nevada? And she was like, I don't know anybody. And my first instinct was to say, well, what about the relationship between me and my son? She said, well, what about it? Instantly, I felt disrespected. I instantly felt disrespected. Now, guys and women, well, not even women, just the guys. When you are denied access to your child, it hurts. It's not something you can just say, you know what, I don't give a fuck. You can't say that. It's hard to be like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if I don't see my kid. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. So I was instantly hurt. My first thought was, you know what? I got something for her. I went to her social worker. Yep, I went to her social worker. I tried to start a child support case against myself. Well, first I called the courts to see if I could start a case against myself. They told me to send some paperwork up to Lansing. I did that. Nothing happened. Then I went and was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and talk to her social worker. Made an appointment with a social worker. Like, hey, I'm here to put myself on child support, XYZ. Now, you would think if I'm starting a case, I would be the plaintiff. Since she was receiving assistance, that's not how it worked. And I didn't know that. And you know what? For all the social workers out there, and I say this in the most pleasant way possible, I need you to be a little bit more communicative when the man steps up. Just be a little bit more communicative when he steps up. If the man steps up and say, hey, no, I am here for this, and this is my son. I got the DNA results, which I did get DNA results for my son. You have to be more communicative. Let them know what the process is. I know being a social worker is a very difficult position in some cases, and you deal with a lot of anal people. But when I went to the social worker, I was real cool with Mello. I'm like, listen, here's the DNA results, everything. Like, she talking about she's trying to move. I'm trying to keep her safe. I'm trying to be a father to my son. I would think this would earn me some sympathy, but it didn't. I was like, all right, forget it. So by the time that I end up actually getting the case started, she received a court date in the mail. I received a court date in the mail. And she called me and she was like, well, what this is about? I said, I don't know. I play stupid. Listen, I am the master of not saying nothing, okay? If I'm doing something and I don't want nobody to know, I ain't saying nothing. And I like to talk, but I'm not saying a damn thing. Let me tell you, okay? She didn't know nothing was happening. And that was the goal. I was playing like I was more in the dark than she was. Like, I don't know where this came from. They just started the case. I guess they found me. They found water. I played that hand. I did. I played it till I couldn't play it. No, I played it like it was poker. I had the straightest face you could ever think of. Summertime came around and we were getting ready to move. So I had ended up getting an apartment in a little ways down from where I was currently living. 2-bedroom. It was affordable. I was a few years on to my new job. And she called me and said, hey, I need to come pick up our son. Well, actually, she said, I need to come and pick up my son. So anytime you hear me say our son, that's me being nice. But she would say, I'm coming to pick up my son. As if she was asexual and she had it by herself. She had her own reproductive organs and she was able to do it by herself. So she said, I come and pick up my son. And I said, well, why? What's going on? Nothing. I just need to come pick him up. I said, okay, well, I can't let you come pick him up unless you let me know what's going on. I got him enrolled in school. We about to move. We got a new apartment. XYZ, whatever. She like, don't let me call the police. Now, I'm going to stop right there. Anytime somebody talking about calling the police, it is cause for alarm. So I'm like, okay, well, if she want to call the police, let me just go ahead, back up. Don't even worry about it. Okay, come and get him. She come and get him. 3 days go by, not weeks. 3 days go by. Now, mind you, we have a court date coming up. Now, the court date was like about 5 months away. Why was the court date so far away? I do not know. But it was 5 months away. I'm like, y'all gotta be kidding me. This is dire straits here. And it's 5 months away. Now, I'm thinking I'm gonna win this case. My whole mindset is to win this case. She tells me after 3 days, and I say, hey, how's everything going? You need anything? Whatever. I'm still being nice. Come to find out, they are living in a shelter. And she told me, she said, well, I had to come and get them because in order for me to get into this more upscale, safe shelter, I needed him. And again, I was hurt. And I was hurt because you used our child in order to benefit you. And that was a very saddening situation that I was in. But a very hurtful situation. And I felt bad for my son because I didn't know what he was seeing. I didn't know what he was going through. I didn't know what he was experiencing. I just need for you to picture you having your child in a nice warm home, warm bed, warm apartment, warm food, the whole 9 yards. And the other party, man or woman, comes and get the child and take them to a shelter only for the sole benefit of themselves. That is a very selfish act. A very selfish act. And that told me a lot about her character. It told me a lot about her character. Something I'd never seen of her. But it told me a lot about her character. And I was disgusted. I couldn't believe that one night he was sleeping in the bed watching SpongeBob. Well, he was watching SpongeBob and then fell asleep. But he was in the bed just, hanging out, chilling, having a good time. And from there, he's living in a shelter, dealing with, I know the moms in children's shelter is a little bit better and safer, but he didn't have to be there. He was fine. He was going to child care. He was going to start pre-K, and this is what happened. After that happened, I had to fight harder for my son, because I knew that the other parent wasn't going to be the best example for him. She wasn't going to set the precedence for him to be a leader, to be strong, to be independent, to be selfless, to be understanding, to be caring. She wasn't going to set that precedence, because if she was able to use him in order to be a benefit for her, it wasn't going to work. So I had to fight harder to get my son. I used every resource that I could think of, every resource. And when we started to go to court, our first court date, they adjourned the case because she didn't show up. I'm thinking they gonna give me the win. They adjourned the case. She called and said, "Oh, I didn't know what day it was or what time it was." And I'm like, "I know you received the paperwork because we talked about it." The court just ran with it. Second court date, we get to the second court date, and we at the second court date. She shows up. The referee asks, "Well, how much money do you make?" She pulls out this notebook and say, $5,000 a year. I damn near fell off the damn podium. You make $5,000 a year. How are you surviving? $5,000 a year, not a month, a year. And don't ask me like, well, you probably ain't remembering it correctly. No, that is one thing that stuck out to me the most. $5,000 a year. I couldn't believe it. So they sent us to mediation. They said that I had to pay $400 to mediation. She had to pay $0. Let me say that again. They wanted me to pay $400 for mediation, and she paid $0. I was thrown. And they was like, well, you got 10 days to file an objection. I filed the objection the next day. Now, let me tell you what happened when I filed the objection. So I filed the objection. I get a phone call at work. We got 10 days to file the objection. I filed mine the next day. So I filed mine basically like day 1, day 2, whatever. So by a few days later, I get a phone call from the prosecuting attorney. She's like, well, I don't see your objection. I don't see that you paid for fame. I said, that's because I filed an objection. Well, I don't see your objection paperwork in the file. I'm like, excuse me? She's like, I don't see your objection paperwork in the file, so we're going to issue a warrant out for your arrest. Wait a minute. You about to do what? To who? Fuck no. This bitch had me wired. You wanted me to file an objection, or you wanted me to pay for fame. So it was one or the other. Either pay for fame or do the objection. I did the objection. Now you telling me your objection paperwork is not in there. You want me to go to jail. So it's a crime not to pay for mediation. You telling me there is no option that I have to not either do mediation or objection. So if I just decide not to do either, I got to go to jail. I'm in violation of court order, so I got to go to jail. Ain't that about a bitch? This is the struggle that I am talking about. It literally make no sense. And I know she wasn't gonna try to scare me. Like, because if you was gonna put a warrant on me, well, go ahead and put the warrant on me. You ain't even have to call and tell me that. You could have just put the warrant on me. And then y'all still have been looking stupid because I filed my objection. But as she started to turn through the file, she ended up finding the objection. As she was turning through the file. So now she has the objection. Oh, well, I found it. Okay, well, cool. See you at the next court date. So we get to the judge. By this time, I done lawyered up because I'm like, I'm not playing with these courts. They take me for a fool. Now, I spent a grip. When I say I spent a grip on this attorney. Every time I turned around, this attorney was in my bag. Every time. So I'm like, all right, bet. So we get to the court date. She in there with her mama. Now, I'm still thinking she living in a shelter. She ain't told the judge that she living with her mama. So I'm like, oh, so y'all want to play these Mickey Mouse games. That's the Mickey Mouse games we playing, right? So y'all gonna sit here and lie and say for good. You're gonna say for good measure. We just gonna say for good measure. You're gonna say for good measure that you living with your mama, knowing that you was living in the shelter. So I'm talking to my attorney. I'm like, look, I know they living in the shelter. So I'm whispering to him like, I know they living in the shelter. I think they lying. So he asked the judge like, well, can I talk to the young lady for a moment? So he takes her outside in the hallway. Now I don't know what the conversation was. I heard some details of it later on, which I'll highlight that later on. But I don't know the details of the agreement that they made when they walked outside. I don't know. For the most part, I really don't care. What happened afterwards was a trip. Now, I told the judge, like, hey, I got us a 2-bedroom apartment. I got us, this is where I work at. I got him enrolled in school. I have all of that together. I'm on my shit. I'm on my shit. Let me tell you, I am on my shit. They sat there and was like, well, that's all good, but, she said she lived with her mama, but he was living with me for 6 months. And I had them all together and she went and moved to a shelter. Oh no, that wasn't good enough. So after my attorney went and talked to her and they came back in, she quietly said, I'll let my son go with him. Only if he pays me $100 a month. Let me say that again. She came in and she told the judge, I will let our son go with him as long as he pays me $100 a month. I was so shocked. And I said, you know what, Judge? If $100 is what it's going to cost me to get my son, I'll gladly pay that to make sure that my son has a future. Gladly pay that. That's the second time she didn't use him to her benefit to give her a leg up. The second time, the first time was getting into the shelter. The second time was getting $100 to fill her pockets. To fill her pockets. She was getting $144 a month off of me. No, I'll take that back. Because they charged me arrears. So she was getting a little over $280 a month from me. And I still had to pay arrears. Because what they don't tell you is that once you start the case, before your court date hits, you're already in the arrear. You're already behind. And they don't tell you that you're behind. See, that's the big setup right there. They don't even tell you that once your case starts, they already start the clock on the money. And the money starts ticking. So by the time you even get to the judge and they actually determine how much you're going to pay, you're already behind. I was already behind $2,000. Already behind $2,000. So they already had me dead to rights. So the $100 wasn't even putting a dent in the arrears that I was collecting. It wasn't even putting a dent in it. That price just kept increasing. Matter of fact, I still got arrears on the books right now. So guys, fellas, single father, husbands that's probably getting divorced and probably taking their kids. Let me be the one to tell you, it's worth it. It's not plug and play. It's not at all. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and he wanted to take custody of his child, and I had to tell him, I had to say, look, let me give you the honest truth. It's not plug and play. Don't think that you can get your child and everything is going to work out smoothly. If you have a good support system, it works. It works if you have a good support system. If you don't have a good support system, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time. My highest recommendation would be to be able to work it out with the other party. I used to be against it because for me, it just causes too much drama. Sometimes one party don't want to let go. They still want to be part of your life. What you doing, where you at, who you dating, can I sleep with you, can I take you out? They still want to do all of that stuff. That has to be severed. Like, no. My best advice, if you got a great support system, utilize it. If you feel like you do not have a great support system, it's going to be hard. It's going to be an uphill battle through and through. Trust me, I've been there. 15 years. I've been there. I've been to every graduation. I've been to every kids party. I done threw parties. I done did it all. And this podcast is going to have so much of my life in it. But it's here to inspire and motivate the man that's out there thinking the way I think. You can get custody. You can be the inspiration to your child. You can be all of that and be the primary custodian. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's really hard. And sometimes the uphill battle seems like it's going to be never ending. And it's going to continue to just be pushing. It's going to continue to be like pushing a boulder up a mountain. But I am here to tell you, when you get to that mountaintop and you start rolling that boulder down, you're going to go through hills and valleys. You're going to go through hills and valleys. But I can honestly say the last 15 years have been the best years I've had. I mean, it's really nothing in comparison to it, but it's been the best years. I've loved every moment of watching my son grow and having real in-depth conversations with him, seeing him evolve into like a little mini me. It's very rewarding. Any father or mother that has literally watched a child grow up can say how rewarding the feeling is watching them grow. It's a very rewarding feeling. And I'm here to inspire and encourage you. You can do it. Don't let nobody tell you anything different. You can be the greatest parent in the world. Whether you're in the house or you're not, you can be the greatest parent in the world. I just had the point of view, and it's been miraculous. Let's say goodbye to Farewell, Mr. Nice Guy. And if you have any topics that you want me to discuss, anything you want to hear about, get my opinion on, you can always send your information over to farewellmrniceguy@gmail.com. Until next time.